Dog growled at the infant every night. The parents burst into tears when they realized why. When a family's loyal dog began growling at their newborn's crib every night, the parents were puzzled and concerned. They couldn't understand their beloved pet's sudden change in behavior until they uncovered the shocking reason behind it. What they discovered left them in tears. Jordan and Grace Peterson, a happily married couple, were raising their 1-year-old daughter, Danielle, along with their loyal German Shepherd, Hugh. One evening, after a tiring day at work, Grace put Danielle to bed and joined her husband. However, she couldn't help but notice that Hugh had been acting unusually restless at night, growling seemingly without reason. Grace voiced her concerns to Jordan, but he dismissed them, convinced that everything was fine with Hugh. After all, the German Shepherd had been a part of their family for nearly 7 years. During that time, Hugh had consistently shown himself to be a smart and devoted companion, traits typical of his breed. Jordan had a deep affection for Hugh, whom he had adopted as a puppy from a kennel. He regarded German Shepherds as one of the most intelligent dog breeds, often compared by scientists to the cognitive abilities of a 3-year-old child. Confident in his understanding of dogs, Jordan believed he knew Hugh better than any expert could. With the appearance of Danielle in the family, Hugh began to spend quite a lot of time at her crib, as if looking after the baby. The parents smiled seeing this, completely confident that the pet would never harm their daughter. When Danielle was 1 year old, she could already boast of her baby teeth and a strong friendship with her 4-legged nanny. It seemed that this couple was unable to cause any trouble to each other. However, one night, through her sleep, Grace heard Hugh growling loudly in her daughter's room. The next morning, she no longer remembered this unusual incident, seeing Hugh and Danielle in a great mood. But the next night, the growling repeated again, alarmed. Grace went to the children's room and found that the huge Hugh was standing on his hind legs in front of the crib and growling loudly at the frightened Danielle, who was reaching out to him with her small hands. Grace had to repeat the command several times before Hugh finally stopped growling and moved away from the crib. But he was still looking at the girl excitedly. Grace took Danielle into her bedroom, leaving the dog locked in the children's room as punishment. In the morning, Jordan saw their daughter sleeping in bed with them and was very surprised as his wife had accustomed the girl to sleeping separately in her crib. Grace told him about the incident with Hugh that night. Jordan decided to figure out for himself what caused his beloved pet's aggressive behavior. The next night, he stayed with Danielle and Hugh in the children's room. At night, the dog's growl was heard again, and Danielle even burst into tears. Surprised, Jordan could not understand anything. After he and Grace took Danielle back to their bed, Hugh's angry growl was heard several more times from the children's room. The couple were completely confused about what was happening. Grace suggested giving Hugh to a shelter or, as a last resort, even euthanizing him. But for Jordan, this thought was completely unacceptable. He considered Hugh not just a dog, but a real member of the family and was ready to protect him at any cost. The couple quarreled very much over this, since Grace was absolutely sure that the most important thing for them was the health and well-being of their daughter. The next day, Jordan discussed the problem with his friend Mike, who once advised him to adopt Hugh from the kennel. Mike recommended taking a closer look at the details and trying to film Hugh's behavior in order to finally find the true cause of the problem. He was sure that the problem was not in the dog itself, but in some detail of the situation in their house, which caused severe aggression in the pet. At the same time, Grace complained to her friend Laura that Jordan was completely putting the dog before the health of their child. Laura advised her to evict Jordan from the bedroom until he finally came to his senses and took his wife's side. In the evening, Jordan told Grace that now, for some time, they would spend the night with their daughter and Hugh in the children's room. Grace had not expected this decision from her husband at all. That night, after they all went to bed in the children's room, Hugh started growling restlessly again and woke Danielle up. Jordan immediately turned on the flashlight and looked around the room. In the corner of the room, he saw a small spot that suddenly started moving. At first, Jordan thought it was a toy or a shadow, but when he turned on the overhead light and looked more closely, he found a huge hairy spider there. Jordan quickly rolled Danielle's crib away from the corner. Grace came running at the noise. Seeing a huge spider in the corner, she became very frightened and screamed loudly. Grace grabbed a slipper, planning to kill the creepy creature. But Jordan stopped her. He decided to catch the spider alive. Taking the long handle from the dustpan, Jordan carefully held it up to the spider. It scrambled over with its legs and finally climbed onto the handle. Jordan deftly shipped the spider into the glass jar and closed the lid tightly. Now, the danger was over and Danielle was safe. Only Grace was quietly sobbing next to her from the horror she had experienced. Hugh happily wagged his tail and rubbed himself against his owner's legs as if he were enjoying his own vigilance. Grace exhaled with relief and thanked the dog for saving her daughter, not forgetting to apologize to Hugh for thinking so badly of him all this time. The next day, Jordan decided to show the caught spider to his neighbor Roy. Roy was an entomologist and professionally bred various insects, including very dangerous ones. When Jordan showed his neighbor what he had caught, the man froze in shock, his jaw dropping. It was a Brazilian wandering spider which had escaped from his terrarium a few days earlier. Roy admitted this to Jordan, who turned pale upon realizing the spider was highly venomous and could have posed a severe threat to his daughter's health. If not for Hugh's vigilance and extraordinary sense of smell, the outcome could have been tragic. Grace shed tears of relief, deeply grateful to their loyal four-legged companion. Their family had narrowly avoided disaster, and Grace now had no doubt that Hugh was not only a true hero, but also an irreplaceable member of their family, ready to protect them at any cost. After this incident, the couple reconciled, with Grace apologizing to Hugh for ever doubting him and showering him with treats daily. Jordan, filled with pride for their intelligent and loyal dog, vowed that Hugh would remain with them for the rest of his life as a cherished and irreplaceable member of their loving family. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.